So let's just, for our last section, our last lesson for this particular segment, let's look at operational monitoring and maintenance. So we're going to look at how do we monitor our device, how do we make sure everything's working okay, what is it that we need to do to assure ourselves that everything's working or not working, as the case may be. So let's get in and take a look at that. Okay, what we're going to look at is how to monitor the platform and interface options, describe and use the available network utilities, upgrade the Junos operating system, and perform password recovery. So let's take a look at just monitoring the platform. How do we test that everything's working properly? We have got a few utilities available to us. Primarily, we're going to be using the CLI, command line interface. As we mentioned earlier, we do have SNMP. We also have our JWeb interface, which we can open up a browser to our device and actually go in and take a look at that. Okay, we can also have some front panel LEDs and displays. So we have that available to us. Here's some of our typical monitoring commands. So show, we can look at system level, looking at system level things, and with things about the system itself. So we can go and look at, say, alarms, for example. Lots of other information we can go through and take a look at. Basically, just to see what's happening on our system. One of the really common things you might do is maybe you'll look at alarms, maybe you'll go and just take a look at configuration information, those sorts of things. We can look at some chassis information. Again, there's all sorts of stuff we can take a look at. I think I gave you a demonstration of that last week. We can take a look at what the fans are doing. We can take a look at our hardware information. Stuff like how much memory do I have on my device. So we can do something like show chassis hardware and take a look at that. We can look at, if there's any alarms, look at temperature thresholds and so on. So there's lots of information we can get just based on that. Interfaces is probably one of the most common ones you will use. We can do show interface, and probably show interface terse is going to be one of the most common commands you will use, which is equivalent to Cisco's show interface or show IP interface brief, for example. Okay, very similar. It's kind of a similar command, except you just type in show interface terse. You can show a specific interface, and you can look at detailed information, extensive information. So there's commands that really go in and show you a lot of information about what's happening on a particular interface. This is our show interface terse, which I've demonstrated before. Just an overview of where all your interfaces are at. Very handy and very useful command. Show interfaces extensive, so we can go into detailed information, mainly for troubleshooting purposes. So if you think something's not working properly, we can go in and take a look here to find out where the problem is. So we can, this is also a handy command as well, we can monitor an interface in real time. So we can see exactly how much traffic is going through the interface, and these numbers will be incrementing live on the screen as we're monitoring that interface. So you take a look at kind of what's happening there. There are a number of things that you can monitor like that within the operating system. Okay, network utilities that we've got, of course, ping and trace route, stuff we're fairly familiar with. There's a few different modes we can use these in. For example, let's just get back up and look at that. With ping, you can just do a ping, and it'll just, when you do type ping, it'll just keep on pinging indefinitely until you tell it to stop with the Control-C command. So there's our Control-C down there. You can actually like send a command like ping and then put the rapid statement after it and say how many pings. So if I said ping 10.210.14.173 rapid 25, it'll just blast 25 pings out at that particular IP address, and then it will stop. If you just type ping, then it'll just keep going indefinitely until you type Control-C, and then it'll give you the output. Trace route is again available to us. Okay, we can monitor traffic. So it'll capture traffic source from or destined to a particular device, and we can monitor detailed, extensive. We can monitor traffic on a particular interface, layer 2 headers, or we can have a matching criteria there. That's also a very useful monitoring command if I'm just wanting to see what's happening with the traffic that's going through my device. So in this case, we are monitoring the traffic on interface GE002. We're looking for layer 2 headers, and essentially this is the output of that command. So we're listening, and we're just looking for this information that's coming through. So essentially it's just going to display on the screen the information that's coming through. In this case, we have got our MAC addresses being displayed as that traffic goes through. We've also got our IP addresses coming through as well. So we can look at, we can go right down to layer 2 detailed traffic going through the interface. Okay, we have got Telnet, SSH, and FTP client commands as well. Of course, we can open up, or we can log into an FTP server. We can take a look at what's happening on that server. That's really kind of handy if you wanted to have a look, you're looking for a particular file on an FTP server that maybe you wanted to load. You can actually log into the FTP server from your device and have a look at what's on the server. You can telnet from one device into another device, which is sometimes quite a handy thing to do. Or you can SSH into that device as well. Okay, let's talk about maintaining the operating system itself. You will do a lab on this. So first of all, we can see what version we're running. The show version command will just tell you the operating system version. In this case, it's 12.1R1.9. Also tells us the model of the device that we're running it on. In this case, it's an SRX240H with PoE capabilities. So we, from time to time, will want to upgrade our operating system. So let's take a look at the information about the version itself. So the package, the operating system comes in a package. In this case, we've got the name of the package, which in this example here is jinstall. It's version 12.1R1.9. It is the domestic edition, and it is signed. Now, the thing about when you see domestic, that's a kind of interesting thing, because what that means is there is encryption included in that version of the operating system. Where you don't have domestic, it means that there is no encryption. So what does that mean? Well, essentially what it means is that that operating system is not capable of SSH. So the only means of connecting to it is via telnet. So it's kind of an interesting scenario. That's actually has to do with some regulations in the US of what they're allowed to export and so on. So if I see export in there instead of domestic in there, essentially the encryption has been removed. Okay, that's sort of a legal requirement in the US. Alrighty, so what about upgrading the version of our operating system? So new versions come out, you want to install it. How do we do it? Actually, it's relatively simple. The command is request system software add, which will upgrade the operating system. So what we want to do there is we want to identify first of all, the particular version of the operating system that we currently have, and we want to then identify a version of the operating system that we would want to upgrade to. So here's an example of that. Request system software add. We are telling it where to find the package, the actual package that we're going to be installing, and then we'll get this output here, which goes ahead and installs that. Now this, can be a little bit of a lengthy process. So I'll just show you how to do it. You will do a lab on this, but I'll just sort of get you into it and show you where it is. When you have a device, a Juniper device that has got multiple routing engines. So with our SRXs, we've only got one routing engine, but with the bigger devices, they've actually got multiple routing engines, and the reason for that is because in case one fails or has to be reset, it doesn't affect packet forwarding. So with that in mind, what you can do is you can do what's called an in-service software update, which is what the ISSU stands for there, in-service software update. And when you do that, you essentially specify that you're doing an in-service software update. And what will happen is you will update one of the routing engines with the new operating system. It'll go through its rebooting process. Then it will go ahead and update the other one. And the beauty of that is you never have to shut down the device. It never stops forwarding packets. You can do it live while it's running. Okay, so essentially the command here is request system software in-service upgrade. There's a few things that we need in place to make that work. We need this particular feature called GRES, which stands for Graceful Routing Engine Shutdown. And essentially what that means is that if we're running a routing protocol, say OSPF, and we shut down our routing protocol, what generally happens is OSPF, the other routers in the network will say, hey, I have got a dead router. So they will then mark that particular network segment as unreachable and recalculate the entire topology, which takes a bit of time. And then, of course, when the routing engine comes back up again, it'll go through that whole process all over again. That causes a fair bit of instability on the network. So with graceful routing engine shutdown, what happens is the protocol or the router says to its neighboring routers, hey, I'm about to shut down, don't panic, okay, I'll be back. So essentially it shuts down, they say, oh, okay, no problem. We know that other router is just doing a shutdown, so we won't recalculate the topology. And it'll shut down and then come back up and everything's fine. Then you've got NSR, non-stop routing, which is another situation where you do have multiple routing engines where it allows a primary to shut down and the backup to take over and then sort of fail back over to the primary when the primary comes back up. That's known as non-stop routing. So what happens is you enable both of these functionalities on your router, and then you go ahead and you issue the request system software in service upgrade command, and away it goes. So you can upgrade the software without losing any functionality at all on the system. Okay, so that's just one of the benefits of the larger enterprise grade type devices. Okay, alrighty, so before we move on to password recovery, I'm just going to show you an example of this in-service software upgrade that we're talking. Sorry, not that. But just generally software upgrade more generally. So let me just go in and take a look at that. Let's see if we can find my desktop here. There's my mouse. Okay, I'm just trying to locate the got 3 monitors going here, so it looks a bit crazy sometimes. I might have to do this. Let's do that. Okay, let's get Putty up again. Here's Putty. And let's also get let's get our FTP server up as well while we're at it. Alrighty, so let's start with our FTP server. If you go down to Juniper, let's open that up. And under Juniper, we have got Junos install packages and Junos OS images. So here we have a few of them here. Different versions. So this is the 12.1R2.9. That was the one we had on our slide. Okay, which is one which has come out in 2012. And then we've got some more recent versions of operating systems here. So we've got the 12.1x44, 45.2, 2015, and so on. So we've got different versions here. You'll notice that most of them are 12.1. There is a 12.3 there. What is the difference between the 12.1s and the 12.3s? The 12.3s need more memory. Okay, so just for the exercise, I would say we'll be loading a 12.1 version, just to make sure that our devices can actually take that. So let me just try and get this up here. All right, so essentially that's where we're at. We're going to be using those packages. Probably the and just to go back to Putty, and we'll just take a look at Putty. Let's just log into a device. So let's just go 40.64. There we are. Okay, so if we were going to do an update, I want you to notice that the software update is done from operational mode. So we're not in configuration mode. So if we're loading a configuration, we go into configuration mode. If we're loading a new operating system, then we are in operational mode. So what we want to do is find the operating system that we want to install. Let's just go back to Putty for a minute. What version are we running? So here we are. We're on 12.1 x46 D40.2. So let's take a look at our server here. And that's that one there. Came out in 2016 is the version that we've actually got. So if I wanted to upgrade that to a newer version, I would probably, there's one here that came out in May this year. So this looks like the most recent one. So 12.1 x46.d76 would be the one that I would be going to. Get that up there. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to there, which was released in so it was the 14th of. Oh, actually, I downloaded it in May, so it wasn't released in May. That's when I downloaded it, but it was actually released this year. So that is the most recent one there. So okay, let's just say I wanted to upgrade to that one. We'd just copy that link location, go back to PuTTY, and the command is request system software add, and paste it in, and away we go. Now if I press that, we're going to be waiting around for quite a long time while that updates. A few things you can do with that. Let's go back to where I was here. A few other options there. I can tell it to reboot after it's added it, which is a really handy option because that just means you can, so if I was to go reboot there, that's really handy because now I can make it add the software, it'll install it, and then it will do the reboot. Otherwise, it's going to wait around for me to say, okay, now reboot. Other things you can do is no validate. The no validate command means that, so what it does by default, it'll go out, it'll check if the current configuration is compatible with the new version of the operating system that you're about to load. Now, I've had situations where you've had very, very old versions of operating systems on devices. You want to upgrade to a new version, and the current configuration is not compatible with the new version. Now, but at the same time, I didn't care that it wasn't compatible because I was going to blow away the configuration anyway, and put something else on there. So you can use the no validate command to stop it from checking that. Now, sometimes you also find that there are other problems that may prevent the operating system from loading. And again, if you're going from a really old version of the operating system to a much newer version, you may have some of those issues. So best effort load overcomes those problems. Okay, it'll say, look, if it's at all possible, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's at all possible to load the operating system, go ahead and load it. So it will actually, yeah, you do it all in one command, and then you go, boom, that's my package, enter. It'll take everything. It'll take everything and go ahead and load it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, all in one command. It'll go ahead and do that. All right. Hey? Yes, exactly. So remove it after successful installation. Yeah. So what it'll do, it'll go over to FTP server, it will grab the package, it will actually drag the package down onto the device and go through a rather lengthy process of installing that package. Okay, so you'll do a lab on that, and it takes a bit of time, but worth having a look at. Now, one of the problems that you may come across here is it's possible that you are out of space. so that you don't have the actual space to download the new package onto your device. So there is a system cleanup command. Let me just double check what it is here quickly. Junos cleanup storage. Let me have a quick look at what that command is. Request system storage cleanup. That's it. So basically, you can do a request system storage cleanup. Now you can do a trial run and just put the dry run command in there to see what it will actually clean up. Or you can say, no, I just want you to clean it up and I don't care. So we're just going to say, I want you to clean up my storage and I don't really, I just want you to go ahead and do it. Let's see if I can drag this up. So there it is. It has found a whole bunch of stuff that, oops, go back, a whole bunch of stuff that it reckons we can get rid of. And it's saying, I found all this stuff. Do you want to get rid of it? And I'm going to say, yes, get rid of it. And it will just go ahead and delete all those files. Done. Okay, so it's now cleaned up the storage. So sometimes you are out of space. Sometimes you just got to run that command to make some more space. Okay, quite a handy command. Alrighty, so we looked at updating our operating system. Back to here.